Welcome to Focus Today. I'm your host, Perry Atkinson, and delighted to have in the studio with us a person that I met sitting next to on an airplane, which is kind of interesting. Anna Gorges is with us today. She's a registered dietitian with Ventana Wellness. And I guess we kind of have to tell the story, right?
We shall.
We were on a plane together from, I think, Salt Lake to coming into, or was it Denver? Was it Salt Lake?
It was Salt Lake to Medford.
Okay, and we're coming into Medford, and we're sitting next to each other, and we just got to chit-chatting, and you were applying for a dietitian job in Grants Pass, and that didn't work out. And I said, well, you ought to check out Mr. Jackson over at Ventana.
Yes. Yes.
And lo and behold, here you are.
Yes.
Well, welcome. Welcome. Well, listen, we want to talk about dieting because I think we're all into it. We're all concerned about it, what is good and what is not. And but first of all, tell us a little bit about your background. How come you chose this?
Well, I have specialized in endocrinology and more of the naturopathic therapies, helping people to literally use food as medicine. And especially in the world that we're living in, it's, you know, let's give this medication and then let's give this medication to alter the effects of that medication. And we really are destroying our systems. So it's important that, you know, we are putting in good quality.
All right, so you're using food for medicine.
Yes.
All right. Well, you know, there's a gazillion diets, and you probably see people come up and down. Most of the diets out there, what do you think of them, just in general? Anything that's good?
Well, I think a lot of them are fads, but, you know, there is some truth behind or some benefits behind the paleo and kind of the gluten-free direction that things have been going. But in my perception, I think it's more about balance. I think it's all going to go back to moderation of all things. All things are good, you know, for the most part. But we do want to look at really the foods that we are putting in our systems, like that we're eating real food and not processed food. You know, you could do a sugar-free diet, but if you're putting in all the chemicals from these artificial sugars and everything, then you're really not benefiting yourself. You're creating more of a toxic system, and so that's not going to help you in the long run.
I am surprised how the gluten-free interest has taken off. I mean, where was it 5 years ago? Today,
right.
You even see the GF on menus.
Right.
What is it? What is it?
Well, gluten can cause inflammation in the system to your cells, not only to your cells, but your intestines. And the problem that has come about is that we don't make breads even the same as we used to. So sourdough is actually going to have a lower gluten content because of the way that it's created. It's allowed to sit, so there are enzymes and probiotics that are able to build up in there. But now we make quick rise breads, and they do have a lot of gluten. And this becomes very toxic to our system because of almost like sludge that it can create in our intestines and cause leaky gut, and you know, then we're losing all of our nutrients.
Well, it's very popular, and yet very, what can I say, people are very allergic to it. I mean, to the gluten. So it's become quite the issue. So it's a good thing it's been discovered, I guess.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
By the way, today is homemade bread day. Just thought I'd let you know.
Well, like I said, you know, even rye has a lower gluten content, so it's not all bad.
Okay. Well, supplements. Why don't we just take more vitamins and keep on eating?
The problem is with supplements is a lot of them are synthetic. If we were to go with whole foods where we're going to get nutrients that our cells actually recognize, then that would be fine. But there are so many out there that it gets really tricky, and especially if we're not seeing those labels with GMP, which is a good manufacturer's practice, we don't realize, you know, what is actually in it. I mean, the supplement realm is still not regulated well enough for us to know truly what is in a product. And like Lannis Pauling used to say, it's kind of like this lock and key fit. So let's say you're eating a carrot and you're getting your vitamin A. When that vitamin A comes into the cell membrane, the lock fits into the hole, it opens and it floods into the cell. Well, if you have something that's a synthetic vitamin A, it's going to come into the cell. Your cell's going to say, I kind of recognize that, but it's going to get jammed. And it doesn't open that door to flood into the cell. So then what do? We just excrete all of what we've just put in our systems from this synthetic form. So they're a waste.
A lot of people do take daily multivitamins and others, and some people say they work, some people say they don't. There's been some reports out say, it's a waste of time and money. How do you know when you're getting something good?
Well, like I said, what you really want to look for is that GMP label on there. That way you have a good quality. And, mostly the supplement brands that have been around for a while. There are some newer ones that are great too. And I could go on with names, but I'll refrain. That's primarily it. And like I said, making sure that it's from a whole food source, so that the derivatives state that it's from, vegetable or fruit, and then
Of course, the big ones, the vitamin C's. Now this time of year, D and B. Where are you on that?
Nearly every one of us is deficient in vitamin D. I think a lot of that has to do with our ozone, for one, the way that is, and the way that we're absorbing vitamin D. And, the fact that we do use a lot of sunscreens and other things that on our skin that can block the sun's rays from coming and creating vitamin D in our systems. And I think vitamin D is imperative to get in, because it's not only, for mood, but it's also imperative for our bone density. And a lot of people get confused because they may take vitamin D, but if you're not taking a vitamin D3, then it's more difficult for your body, because you have to convert D1, D2, D3. Might as well take D3, avoid all of that.
Okay.
But
all right, we're talking about nutrition today, and Anna's with, she's the new dietitianist there with Ventana Wellness. All right, the big one, the big topic, and we can start it, we'll come back to it, is sugar. I don't know how you avoid it. And I think we're all addicted, myself included, but I also have some not good reactions to too much sugar. Yeah. Please tell me there's a pill out there I can take that takes the craving away.
Actually, there is a great herb called gymnema, which alters the sweet taste buds on your tongue and can trigger to the brain to teach it to not crave sugar. So
really? Where do you get this?
There's a pill for everything, right? So
and is that a natural thing?
Mm-hmm, it is.
And you take that, and that just helps cure. Yeah. Well, is sugar the big enemy?
Sugar in itself is not necessarily bad, but it goes back to the root of it, what its form is. If it's something that is still nutrient dense that we're getting from complex carbs like sweet potatoes, or you're doing things like whole grains or quinoa or beets or fruit, that's a good sugar. Of course, that too can be taken in excess, but it's again how much and how often that we're doing it.
All right, so where would you start, Anna, with somebody that obviously wants to lose some weight? What do you do as a dietitian? What do you do to analyze this person, or where do you start?
Usually I like to see what they're actually eating, take a look at their diet. One of the biggest things that I see as a fault is that people actually don't eat frequently enough. Okay, so we're going long spans of time without eating, your blood sugar drops, then by the time you do eat, your blood sugar spikes, and then we're plummeting all over again. So it's creating, you know, this Rocky Mountain effect.
Right.
And that is what leads more to the weight gain and insulin resistance and cascades into, you know, thyroid disorders, or we go on, you know, a lot of these diets or fads. And I've realized in my years of work that actually affects how the thyroid functions, because it's so much stress in the system that your body can't adapt as well to doing so.
All right, let me take a break when we come back, because part of all of this now, it appears that diabetes is on the rise. Mm-hmm. Is it epidemic? I mean, it's borderline.
Oh, yes, it is.
You think it is?
Yeah, and I mean, you're seeing it in kids.
Okay, so, number one, is it preventable? Number two, can be reversed?
It is preventable for the most part. Yeah. There is a 30% genetic link, but I've seen firsthand that it can be reversed.
Okay, we'll talk about that when we come back with Anna in just a few moments.
Hi, I'm Paulina and I work at theDove TV. Did you know that when you support theDove TV, you have a profound impact, not only in our community, but around the world? It's your continued support that takes the inspiration and hope in the programs we produce and makes them available to the thousands of people who are watching these videos online every week. Help bring encouragement and hope to our valley and beyond by making a secure online donation today at our website, thedove.us.
Okay, we're back, and we're delighted to have with us today Anna Gorges. She is a registered dietitian with Ventana Wellness. And we're talking about all kinds of things when it comes to dieting. And we kind of have a unique connection because we actually first met sitting on an airplane together, flying from Salt Lake back to Denver. And she was coming out to interview with somebody else. And I said, "No, Anna, you go talk to them." Took a while, but it worked, huh?
It did.
All right, good to see you. All right, we talked a little bit about diabetes. You know, I'm just amazed that we don't make the connection that we're just sugaring ourselves up, and our kids are becoming diabetic at very early age. Mm-hmm. I mean, why aren't we getting this? I mean, it's obvious what we're doing to ourselves.
You know, that floors me as well. Mm-hmm. You know, with how much our foods are processed, I think that that's one of the biggest culprits. And you know, you're talking about the energy drinks and, you know, kids just getting loaded up on sugars. And, you know, even with juice, kids don't need juice. Pick up a piece of fruit and it's going to be digested slower. You're going to get more nutrients from it, and you're not having that surge of sugar to your bloodstream. You know, and it also goes back to my initial statement of balance. You know, if you're eating a carbohydrate all by itself, you're going to go through that spike and plummet. Mm-hmm. So if we're looking at balance and we're eating snacks, you know, incorporating protein, we're going to slow down how quickly we're breaking that protein down. So it's not as much of a rise. We have more stable energy. And then, you know, we're helping to prevent some of that diabetic result.
You said earlier that diabetes can be reversed. Now, I realize there's some genetic components to this, but a lot of these that come on can come off. Tell us about that.
Yeah, again, it's about changing the diet. It's about changing your habits, and also incorporating activity. I think that that's another good point to make, too.
The exercise and water.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about diet and pain. I know there at Ventana you guys do a lot with this, where you change a diet, maybe even taking out a lot of sugar as it relates to inflammation. Tell us how you address that.
Well, what a lot of people don't realize is that sugar and, again, a lot of these processed foods, especially those that are more GMO and, you know, medications, it causes a lot of dysbiosis in the gut. So we're actually not metabolizing foods very well, and when you get especially sugar in there, you start to create more of what we would call more harmful, I don't want to say bad bacteria, but it is harmful bacteria and harmful fungus like candida in the gut. And that in itself can cause a lot of inflammation and, again, leaky gut in the system, which cascades into so many different things.
So just by cutting back on the sugar, what do you use in the way of supplements for inflammation? Anything?
Oh gosh, there's a full list. Turmeric is great, cayenne, as well as oregano oil is really good, rosemary, ginger and garlic. It's actually the key component called allicin, which is in garlic, that helps to reduce a lot of inflammation. And it also helps to clean up the gut too. So a lot of those work hand in hand, so it's really great.
I'm glad to hear ginger, because when I go to the sushi restaurant, I get
oh yeah,
the wasabi and the
Absolutely.
ginger. Okay, hopefully that's good for me.
Yes.
You know, sometimes in weight loss, people will try to do it with some fad diets. Other people will do a very aggressive workout plan, which is kind of good, because I realize they're doing something. They can easily get discouraged and not follow through. But what good is an exercise program without a good nutrition program?
Exactly. You said it right there. I mean, they work hand in hand. I know a lot of people ask, well, can I just, work out and not have to eat healthy?
Yeah.
Or can I just, kind of change my diet a little bit and just not work out? Well, you can for maybe a brief period, but in the end, it's going to go both of them together, especially if you want to truly transform your body and heighten your metabolic rate.
Because I see, when I'm at the gym, and it's fun to watch the people. I go there for entertainment sometimes. Yeah. But they're building so much muscle, and I go, what for? I mean, what's the deal?
Yeah, I mean, some people have their own ambitions on the physique, but truly, the leaner your body composition, the higher your metabolic rate is going to be. So the more calories you're going to burn.
If you're leaner. So you got to do the weight thing. Okay. And if you're just turning fat to muscle, you may not be gaining a whole lot there, other than a physique.
Right,
you know?
right.
So, but if you're not getting leaner, then what's going on here?
Correct.
Wow. All right, because I go there and I'm watching some of these people, and I go, this is really kind of funny to watch. I don't know what they're trying to do, but I'm not into that. Okay, so what about a workout? Where do you go from muscle training or building to aerobic?
Meaning, how do you get
the balance there? Oh,
okay. Well, me personally, I do half and half. I will do 3 days cardio, 3 days weight training. Other people will do, half and half on every single day. It just kind of depends on what your interest level is. Do what's fun. First off, with exercise at all, do what you find is fun. Otherwise, you're not going to stick with it.
Yeah.
The second part is, truly, we don't want to solely do weight training. You want to do some cardio because you want to strengthen your heart at the same time. But a lot of people don't realize how important weight training is too. Not only to get muscles, but that's for bone building. And I used to train triathletes and work with them with their nutrition, and also I've been an athlete for many years, and I recall even runners that would, they would go from their running season or from their swimming season, and then they'd jump into running, and they would get stress fractures and, shin splints, and it's because they're not doing weight-bearing activity with literally weights in the gym, to strengthen those bones, and then you get those fractures.
Well, I've often said, and I'm certainly not the pro you guys are, but at least start with a good walk.
Exactly, yeah.
I mean, if I don't walk 20 minutes, what's wrong with that?
Anything that you can do is going to be beneficial, and nothing.
What about the person who eating healthy, on a good diet, disciplined, they do some exercise, they're hanging in there doing all the things, but they still got pain.
Again, I would go back to the diet because there is something that is going wrong. There is some sort of dysbiosis in the gut in which either their pH is not balanced, because that can happen. You know, you're not making enough enzymes to break down your foods, so your body is either becoming toxic, or you're eating these other foods that are that have become more allergenic to your system, and causing inflammation to the cells and to the joints. And also, if you're not getting in, you know, some of those soothing foods, and like fish oil, your essential fatty acids, those omega-3s are imperative at lubricating the joints and decreasing that inflammation too.
There's a lot of discussion and actually consumption now of probiotics. Mm-hmm. Where are you on that?
I think
everything I read seems to be good.
Oh, well, I mean, they are crucial, especially if you do not eat a lot of fermented foods where you're going to get them yourself, or if you're not eating foods that have prebiotics to them. That would be in like green tip bananas. Even I know people used to tease me because I would take the strings off on, but that's a prebiotic that's going to feed the good bacteria in your gut. Things like okra and artichokes and asparagus, those are also going to be good prebiotics for your gut, and then help to build up the healthy, good probiotics.
Wow. But the actual manufacturing now of probiotics, and you go on there and they go gazillion, billions, and zillions. I don't know. What are we looking for? You know?
I always like to encourage a broad spectrum probiotic, something that's going to contain a lot of different strands, because every strand is going to be made for something different. I mean, you have things like the lactobacillus, haevidicus, and bacterium, the Bactobacterium longum, which is found to help to decrease cortisol levels. So even if we have internal stress that we don't see, it can be causing chaos in our systems.
Wow. And the other thing that seems to be happening today is that folks seem to be having more food allergies, or allergies in general seem to be on the rise. Now, part of this, I think, is what brought the interest of gluten-free. But just general allergies, is that a diet issue?
I think it goes back to our food industry, and you know, my brother-in-law gets me every year and says, you know, we weren't dealing with these things. Why is there such a rise in this? It can't be true. It is true. I mean, you have to look at how many GMO foods we have these days, how many pesticides are going in our systems. And just to kind of give a little bit more description to that, with the leaky gut reference, is that we put these things in our systems and we're not able to metabolize them well. Taking, for example, if you put in a GMO food, and your cells are breaking that down, and we all remember way back when in our chemistry classes where we had the DNA strand. Well, when it flips and it unravels, if it's a GMO, that ladder doesn't link up right again. So this leg of the ladder might be connected with now this leg of the ladder. So when we have non-GMOs, your body's going to recognize it more efficiently. Also, we get a lot of these, if your gut's not healthy and we're putting in these pesticides and GMO foods, it can actually cause holes in your intestinal lining. So what happens there is now we have these food particles that are coming through that should have been small to go into the bloodstream to get absorbed. Now we have these huge holes. So you have larger food particles going into the bloodstream. Now your body's saying, what is this foreign matter? Because it's so big that it doesn't know what to do with it, and that's what causes a lot of the inflammatory factors and the allergies.
Fascinating. All right. Well, Anna is a registered dietitian on staff now at Ventana Wellness. You can go to ventanawellness.com and check out all the resources there. But if you want somebody to kind of sit down with you and systematically work out a plan and get you on a good, healthy eating program, here's the lady. She's the lady to do it. And I'm sure we'll be hearing from her more as the days go by. But some of it's common sense, but some of it we do need some coaching and analyzing, right? And that's where you come in.
Yes.
Okay, thanks for being with us today.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Paula, and I work at theDove TV. Every day we get letters and emails from people who've been encouraged, blessed, and challenged by the programs on theDove TV. But we couldn't do it without you. Did you know that more than 90% of our income comes from people like you? You can help us continue to bring inspiration and hope to our community by making a secure online donation at our website, thedove.us, or call us at 541-776-5368.
Well, welcome back. We are delighted to have back with us today Dr. Lowell Ponte. He is a former think tank gentleman and he's also an editor of Reader's Digest magazine. He has authored quite a few books, and The Great Withdrawal, The Great Debasement, The Inflation Deception, The Crashing of the Dollar, and his latest book he's co-authored with Greg Smith, Don't Bank on It. There's a picture of the book there on the screen. You may want to check it out at Barnes & Noble or at Amazon. And today we want to talk about banking and gold, but Lowell.
Didn't I tell you I got a promotion?
What am I supposed to say?
Well, this is the only thing I had laying around that had much gold in it, so thought it might be appropriate.
Oh, it is. Oh, it's fantastic. Anyway, he's wearing a headpiece this morning.
Yes, I got that at the yard sale for 50 cents.
Well, you paid too much for it.
Hey.
How are you? Good to see you, my friend.
I think of this as my Barack Obama outfit.
Oh, is that it?
Thought how beautiful he would look in this regalia. He's almost perfect from it, given his ancestry.
Oh, yeah. There you go. Hey, good to see you. How you doing?
I am doing well. Hey, thank you for having me back.
Yeah.
Well, don't bank on it. How in the world did we get into such a book? Craig and I have a mutual friend. She'd been going to the same bank for 20 years. It was one of those banks where all the tellers smile and greet you by name when you come in, and they're also happy to see you coming in to make a deposit. And then one day, she came in and said, "Today I need to withdraw $25,000 in cash." And suddenly all the smiles vanished. And suddenly a manager was by her side saying, "Why do you need this money? Do you have a note from your father allowing you to withdraw?" Now, she's 45. "Do you have a note from your father allowing you to withdraw this money? What do you need it for?" And she's looking at him like, "This is my money. Why are you asking me what I'm going to do with my money? It's just your job to give it to me." Well, it turned out all that day they refused to give her back her money. And in fact, she had to come in the next morning with a lawyer before they would give her her money from her account. And we're fine. We discovered as we researched it that this is going on all over the U.S. and Europe right now.
Wow.
And we thought to ourselves, oh, yes. I mean, if you want a large amount of money in cash, now they'll give you a check that they can withhold cashing for 10 days or so. But the banks are actually running pretty close to the rims right now. See, we have a thing called fractional reserve banking, which means, if you remember the movie It's a Wonderful Life with Jimmy Stewart, there's a scene where the people are staging a run on his bank. They all want their money back because they're afraid, because they know he doesn't have enough money in the bank to cover everyone. And that's the way all our banks are, by the way, nowadays. And Jimmy Stewart says to them, well, Joe, don't you understand? Your money isn't here. It isn't in the safe. It's in Mary's house. We lend it to her, and she'll try to pay us back as best she can. That's the way our banking is today. Now, the catch is we've all felt safe about that because we see that little gold square in the corner of a bank's window saying insured by FDIC, by the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation. Right. And so we said, why worry? You know, this is all insured. The only catch is when Craig and I investigated that, the FDIC at any given moment only has reserves of about $37 billion. And on top of that, all it has is a promissory note, a rather vague one, from the Treasury and from the Federal Reserve, saying in the direst of emergency, we might back you with another $500 billion worth of gold. Terribly reassuring until you realize the FDIC today is insuring $7 trillion worth of gold. So it has the ability at best to cover only 1 out of every $14 it insures. So we have fractional reserve banking protected by fractional reserve insurance. And by the way, this doesn't apply just to individuals. This also applies to governments. 2 years ago, Germany, which had been storing part of its gold in the Federal Reserve Vault in New York City, lest it be invaded from the east by the Soviets, Germany said, we have 1,536 million or metric tons of gold in your vault. We need back 84 tons, just a tiny fraction of that. The Fed looked at them and said, well, it will take us 7 years to give you back 84 tons of your gold. Well, gee, can we then send a team to at least audit our gold? No, you will not be allowed to audit your gold in our vault, said the Federal Reserve. Well, did we send a German official just to look at our gold from 10 feet away? No, you will not be allowed to even come and look at your gold in our vaults. So you see the private banks, the Federal Reserve, which is also technically private in many ways. Yeah. You can't necessarily count, even in good times, on getting your money back when you need it. Imagine what would happen if there were an economic collapse. And you have to realize your money literally doesn't exist in their vaults anymore. It exists only in their computers as little electronic blips. And if anything disrupted those blips, your money is gone. And as we sit here talking, Perry, there are in communist China 125,000 full-time soldiers in the Chinese military who are cyber warriors. Their only job every day is to put on their uniform and sit in front of a computer screen in Shanghai and hack into Western computers, especially banking computers. In fact, the biggest of our banks, JP Morgan Chase, just a few days ago, acknowledged that hackers had broken into 76 million of its account records. Not the whole account, but enough to show you how vulnerable we are, having rebuilt our whole civilization on computers that have never stood the test of time. We don't really know how vulnerable they are.
So what are you suggesting here, Lowell? What's the individual to do? And the other, and second to that question is, it appears that the consolidation of banking, what is that leading to? I'm seeing big banks buy up other banks, buy up other banks, buy up other banks. Yep. Where's this going?
Well, ultimately, it's going to the nationalization of banks, which has almost happened de facto anyway, because government has so much regulatory power over banks now, they can command banks to do anything they want. And they have been more than happy to do that, to use the banks as their own ATM machines. For example, starting under Jimmy Carter, they ordered the banks to issue $1 trillion worth of mortgages to people who would normally not be considered mortgage worthy. That's largely what led to the property collapse in 2008 that is still with us in a stagnant economy, in a loss of real jobs. You know, we're told that, oh, well, jobs have recovered. Not quite, because the jobs that were lost were good-paying jobs. The jobs that were recovered are part-time hamburger flipper jobs. Now, if you're a young person, you find that first-time home sales in the United States are at their lowest level in 37 years, going back to the Carter era. And why is that? That's because go try to get the credit to get a mortgage for a home if you have 2 hamburger flipper jobs. You're simply not going to be able to do it. And yet that's where nearly half of millennials, gosh, the generations just keep changing, are. I mean, you have a third of millennials still living at home with mom and dad up to age 39.
Right. Before we run out of time, 2 quick questions. What are you saying the individual ought to do? And number 2, where do you think gold and silver is going?
Well, gold and silver ultimately will go up because they always do. As Pat Boone, who wrote the foreword to our book, points out, you know, gold is the enduring biblical standard for real money. What they're doing now is printing a lot of money out of thin air, and you really do not want your future and your retirement. By the way, the politicians are eyeing ways to take your retirement funds, as they did in Argentina a few years ago. Oh, this is why we wrote the whole book. in fact, is to help arm people with information, show them how they can protect themselves. The good news, by the way, is we'd be happy to give any of your listeners who have a bank account. If you don't, it won't matter. But if you have a bank account, you can get the book absolutely free and postpaid. Will not cost you a penny. All you need to do is call a toll-free number, 800-630-1494. That's 1-800-630-1494. Or as I like to say, think of Columbus sailing the ocean blue in 1492, but not quite. It's 800-630-1494. and how are we able to do this? Well, because frankly, my co-author Craig Smith is a very successful entrepreneur. He doesn't need the money from selling a few books. He does, like me, want to save the world for our children and grandchildren, to protect the Republic, restore the Constitution, and so on. And so we show people how they can protect themselves and how we can work to get back to honest money, honest banking, and so on, that isn't entirely under political control, especially in an age where we're right on the verge, Perry, of going to the cashless society,
right,
in which all transactions will be hackable, trackable, and taxable, in which everything you do will go through a government computer and probably automatically have 20% deducted from it. Now, there are advantages to that. You won't catch a disease from being handed a dollar bill that somebody with the flu was just handling, but the government will be able to tax everything. You will have no more financial privacy.
Yeah.
And on top of that, the fact that we're entering the age of the Internet of Things. By 2020, there will be 50 billion gadgets in our home that have some kind of computer chip in them. Okay. And that chip becomes a back door through which hackers, I mean, if you can, for example, lock your back door or make sure it's locked remotely from your cell phone, I guarantee you a hacker can use that same technology to unlock your back door. And through that kind of computer chip, and they've already found some in refrigerators, that hacker chips built into your refrigerator that were being used to break into a home computer system and from there into your bank account. So, I mean, we're in some ways becoming more vulnerable than ever before to this sort of attack. And doubtless the attacks are much more severe than you've been told. Yeah. And then you realize that the government wants your money because it's going broke. And it all becomes very disquieting, especially when, what are they paying you for taking the 20 risks we analyzed in our new book, Don't Bank on It, in order to take those risks? Why, they're paying you nothing. They're paying you, what, 0.5% interest? So it no longer even makes rational sense to keep very much money in a bank account.
Well, Lowell, thanks. I'm out of time. I'm going to have you back. Dr. Lowell Ponte with us again. 1-800-630-1494. 1-800-630-1494. If you want to get a free copy of the book, Don't Bank on It. Or you can go to their website, don'tbankonit.org, right?
Don't Bank on It book.
Yeah.
.org. Somebody else got to Don't Bank on It first.
Don'tbankonitbook.org. All right. Hey.
But the postage free and everything. It won't cost you a thing. Great Christmas gift.
All right. You're a blessing. Thanks, my friend. We'll have you back soon. Good to see you again. Hey. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Daniel and I work at theDove TV. You know, compared to Portland, Seattle, and LA, Medford might be considered a small market. But at theDove, we're excited about the opportunity to make a big impact right here in our community. And you help make that happen. Did you know that more than 90% of our income comes from people like you? You can help us now by making a secure online donation at our website, thedove.us, or by phoning 541-776-5368.
Welcome back. Well, did you know that the Rogue Valley has a Chaplains Association, the Rogue Valley Chaplains? And I'm delighted to have with us today their senior training chaplain, and that's Chaplain Jim Fields is with us today to kind of give us an update of their role in the community. And Jim, first of all, I want to say thanks for what you guys do and making yourself available.
Thank you.
I've had some opportunity to interact with some of you folks, and it's always been very pleasant and very professional.
We try to demonstrate the love of Christ in a trauma situation.
No, and you get them, boy, you really do. Now, first of all, tell us about the association.
The association started probably about 4 years ago with a group of chaplains met just to discuss what we would do in case of a major incident and how we would work together and be prepared to respond to a major incident. such as an airplane crash, a school shooting, things like that. And it kind of grew from there. Started out with about 4 of us meeting, and right now there's 36 chaplains in our organization. We saw the need to represent all the agencies in both Josephine and Jackson County: fire, police, dispatch, OSP dispatch, and EMS, Mercy Flights. We just saw that there was this need to have someone on scene to be with the victims and with the first responders as well, because they're also traumatized by what they see.
Who calls you?
Dispatch will call us. We'll call probably our executive chaplain, Fed Sada, and he'll make the assignments. I am assigned to Jackson County Sheriff, so they can call me on their own. They have my number, but normally it's through dispatch. Dispatch can call me as well.
24/7, huh?
24/7.
And you never know when you're getting a call.
We've gotten up from Thanksgiving dinners to answer a call.
That's unbelievable. All right, now you are kind of like the senior training officer.
Yes.
What does that mean?
That means I'm responsible for all the training that we put into our first responder chaplains and to our community chaplains. We put our first responder chaplains through 48 hours of training before we allow them to answer calls for the agencies. And we train them on basic things such as what it means to be a first responder chaplain, how to do death notifications, how to respond to a crisis, stress management, drug abuse, ethics. We cover all those items in that 48 hours of training so that they know how to not only deal with the community, which we do deal with, but the first responders as well. How to respond to a crime scene. How do you go into, because we're allowed on crime scenes if we're invited. And so we have to know how to operate within that setting that we have. Our community chaplains, we put through 8 hours of additional training. Our community chaplains come alongside of us. If we respond to a call, and we're finding a lot of people in the valley right now are unchurched. They have no spiritual advisor. They have no church family to turn to for support. So when we go on those calls, if they are traumatized and it's going to be something beyond what we can deal with initially, we will call in our community chaplains. They will meet with them and visit with them. If they're believers, we have them pray with them, we have them read scripture with them, maybe do a little bit of Bible study with them and help them through this situation. Get them other resources that they might need in order to make it through this traumatic situation that they've just faced. So they go through 8 additional hours of training. Our first responder chaplains need to be recorded, ordained ministers or licensed ministers. Most of the agencies require that because we have access to the personnel, we have access to everything that a law enforcement or a firefighter has access to. So they want to know that we're ordained or licensed. Community chaplains just need an endorsement of the church. These are people who have a heart for helping others. Our first responder chaplains, that's one of the requirements that we have with them is you have to have a heart for it. You have to be called by God. You cannot go in to the situations we go into just because you can wear a cool uniform or you can ride around in a police car or a fire truck. It doesn't work that way. It has to be a calling by God. We also ask that our chaplains be available. As we talked about earlier, I've gotten up for my Thanksgiving dinner to respond to a call. Christmas morning, unwrapping the presents, right in the middle of it, I've responded to a call. And so we ask that they also be available. That this is what we look for. Chaplains who are going to be available, chaplains who have a calling for it, who have a heart for it.
Wow. And I think people don't realize the situations you get called into. They are pretty dramatic, aren't they?
Yes, they are. They can be very dramatic. We get involved in homicides, suicides, officer-involved shootings, major accidents, vehicle accidents, domestics, any of those situations we're liable to be called into. Fires, structure fires, wildland fires. We're on scene for most of the wildland fires that take place around here. Structure fires, we're there to help the families get the resources that they need and to also counsel and comfort them.
Wow. Well, are you looking for more volunteers?
Oh, absolutely. We'd love to double in size if we could.
Okay, so if somebody is already a licensed ordained minister, that puts them at the higher level. But if they have a heart for this and they're church sponsored, that puts them at another level.
That
what
puts
do they
them-
do? How do they get a hold of you?
They can get a hold of the Rogue Valley Chaplains. The phone number's on the brochure there.
Okay.
Or they can contact through the website.
Which is roguevalleychaplains.com, if you want to do that, if you feel so led to do that. I would imagine you really have a chance to really minister at levels that a normal pastor doesn't. You know?
That's one of the things that we talk about in our training, is that this is a different ministry. This is a ministry outside the walls of the church.
Yeah.
And not that pastors don't come into trauma situations, but they don't come in as early as we do. They're not there initially to help with the ministry. One of the things we train our chaplains to do is, first thing you ask, do you have a spiritual advisor? Do you have a pastor, a minister? We will contact them for you. But we're the initial contact that they have. We have the first chance to demonstrate the love of God in that situation. And then we will contact their pastor, priest, imam, makes no difference, rabbi, whatever their beliefs are. We will minister to them and make sure that their spiritual advisor is notified.
You know, the other part about this, Jim, that is so refreshing is that the agencies want you. And they actually see the value of what you provide.
Yes, we're very blessed in that aspect, is that the agencies know what we can do. They know what we can do for their personnel, for the first responders, and what we do for the community as well. So they do want us. None of us are paid. We're all volunteers, and they know that. But they try to help us as much as they can with maybe sending us for additional training, providing us with certain uniforms and so forth, so we can be identified.
Well, Jim, thank you for what you do. Thanks for coming in today. RogueValleyChaplain.com. If you are interested and feel led to be a part of this, you can get a hold of them there and find out more. Maybe take one of Jim's classes and see what's going on there. But again, these are angels behind the scenes, believe me, and I've run into them on various incidences, and you guys do a marvelous job. Thank you, my friend. Thanks for coming in.
Well, thank you. God bless you, and thank you for having us.
All right, blessings on you. We'll see you next time on Focus Today.
Hi, I'm Jim, and I work at theDove TV. Every weekday between 6 and 8 a.m., our award-winning news and sports team bring you the best morning show around. It's live, it's honest, and it's a whole lot of fun. And you help make it happen. Did you know that more than 90% of our income comes from people like you? You can help us continue to air local programs that share your voice by making a secure online donation at our website, thedove.us.